us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good Saturday evening, everyone. Hope everybody's having a good day. I'd like to say I was late for this, but I just don't feel like I am. I tend to think that it happens in God's time. What a neat thing, man. And that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the actual live or the rewatch. Of course, if you want to input, please do so. What you have to say is important. And getting different views from different people is always good. So I want to come on and talk a little bit about what is God's time and what is time, because God's time is different. Now, this is the way that I kind of see it, we as humans created time. So we created hours, minutes, days, weeks, months, years for us to keep track of things, right? Fair enough. All right. But the problem is that creates an expectation. See, the thing is God's yes is always valid. So that's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. And it's not anything that you need to worry about because you're not God. Right? So, what is God's time? Well, God's time is when it happens, man. We cannot put expectations on things that we don't have control over. All right? We could have some of our best laid plans, man, but that doesn't mean it's going to actually happen. So our concept of time, I don't think goes along with God's. I think God has the way I see it is he had this planned out for you from the day that you were born. Now, what does that do with our free will, though? Right? But doesn't that kind of take away our free will? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It looks that way and it's going to feel that way, but it's one of those things that you have to experience it. Until you experience it, you're not going to understand it. And it'd be like me trying to explain how to give birth. I'm not capable of doing that because I've never been pregnant. Nor am I capable of being pregnant. So therefore, I can't pass on that knowledge. Right? So time. Now, the best thing about, hey, Jerry, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. It's good to see you, brother. We got Gary on. We got Gary, Jerry, and Dion on today, and we're talking about what God's time is. I think utilizing God's time. See, he already knows when things are going to happen. These are things that are beyond us, and once we come into agreement with those, and just be okay with what is happening today, right now, because it's all you have. You don't have anything else. You don't have tomorrow. You don't even have 10 minutes from now yet. You don't have that. Okay? And we cannot stay sober on yesterday's successes. And we provide new successes today. That's why I go to a meeting every day. And I have backup. I have backup meetings so that when I oversleep on days like this, I have another meeting that I have in my pocket. And it's a fantastic meeting, man. I love it. It's called the New Clayton Group. They're based out of Georgia. Fantastic meeting. I get a lot out of it. So when I wake up today and it's, way past the time I wanted to get up, that I wanted to get up because I had plans, it's not the way that it worked out for me. Right? So those things will get done in God's time. What my job is to do is to set those priorities and then do it correctly. That's my job. Okay. I want to go over a few other things while we're on here also. Um, how do you struggle with that, Gary? I'm sorry, that sounded so rhetorical, guys. Like, oh, how do you? No, that's not how I meant it. I'm sorry. Yeah, is it? When am I gonna feel better? When am I gonna? When's this? When's this? And I feel like when we're asking when and why, what I do when I feel like when I'm doing that I'm arguing with God. And it's just not a battle that I'm going to win. So sometimes, even though it can be really fucking tough, I have to be okay with what is happening right now. Because there is nothing else. I can't put my hands around anything else except what is happening right now. There were a few things that I wanted to read. One is a hard story. Um, and then I also want to go ahead and read out the daily reflections because it was pretty good. And we still got about 9 minutes to work with here. So this was out of Soberlicious. It's one of the groups that I belong to. And I wanted to read this because it's tough. It's a harder one. And this was written by I'm not going to say their name okay. Just wanted to share something. My daughter and son-in-law and 3 kids were living in a trailer in a small town, and they were busted for making meth. Their kids were a mess, and their lives were a mess. By the grace of God, they found recovery. They bought a house, a car, a camper, had good jobs, and the kids were doing great. But then they quit going to meetings, and they started drinking. They decided that drugs were the problem and came home partying one night. They had a fight. And without sharing the gory details, my son-in-law was found by my 16-year-old grandson, hanging in the garage. No matter what, always remember that nothing is so bad that you can't make it worse by using or drinking. Keep coming back. And those are the things that we work with every day. I don't want to say deal with every day, because I no longer deal with life. I've come into agreement with it. And that tells me right there that sometimes, man, addiction can be so fucked up. It can be fucked up. Some of those things, like people with drug problems sometimes think that they don't have a problem with alcohol, and vice versa. I'm going to tell you so that anybody can be addicted to drugs, but that's not what I'm here for. That's not what we're talking about today. So I wanted to see what Gary had to say here. I'm too impatient. I need to leave everything in God's hands and not take it back. Yeah. See, once we give it to God, we have to move on. Because faith without works is dead. So there needs to be some action after that. Hey, God, I need you to take this from me, because I'm not supposed to be dealing with it right now. Okay. Now you got to go do something. Okay. You can't ask God for a favor and not return it. Okay. So try it this way. Hey, God, dude, whatever you want to say. I call God dude. I'm sober. Hey, man, I'm going through a lot right now. You know that. Can you take this from me and then show me a better direction, please? And it almost invariably happens. Somebody will almost always be put in my life that I can help at that moment. So once I ask God for something, I have to put action. Right? Pray, action. Right? Even if that action is doing the dishes. Do something else. Okay? Because that's part of it. So we can't just let it go and it's magically done. No, we have to put some pay in it, man. Get some payola in that. Double down. Let's see what Daily Reflections has to say today. AA regeneration. Such is the paradox of AA regeneration, strength arising out of complete defeat and weakness, the loss of one's old life as a condition for finding a new one. Which time do we have? Okay. So, and that's a Bill W. It looks like I'm having a streaming issue with one of my. Last time it said that my kitty cats hadn't plugged my. Better double check on that. Okay, good. It's just a streaming issue. That's all right. Yeah, it's true. There is no proof that we have tomorrow. God may call us. God may call us one day. You don't know. But let's read this. So this portion was written by Bill W. out of AA Comes of Age, and I'd read it, but it's kind of long. It's actually it take up a full 15 minutes. So essentially, what he was talking about, that he was at a conference, and this conference was the conference. AA had been around about 16 years, but this was the conference for some finalizations and things like that. And at this point, Bill W. had to let the program go. All right. So, in other words, he had to get the program to a point where it could be something of itself by itself without him. I think I'd actually like to read the last paragraph of it. As I spoke, and he was speaking at a conference, and everybody was there. His sponsor, Ebby, Chuck, his wife, everybody was there. As I spoke, I again felt the tug of that desire to set back the clock. And for the moment, I dreaded the coming change as much as anyone. He dreaded it because it wasn't going to be around about him anymore. He had a fear that it would fall apart, right? I understand this. But the mood was quickly past, and I knew that all the worrying concerns as a parent was now at an end. What a relief, man. Could you? I don't think I would have wanted to be in Bill W.'s position. I think that would have been too much for me. This man figured out a lot of things for us, like depression. He was a big move. He did a lot of things for us as a community, as a whole, on recognizing depression. The conscience of Alcoholics Anonymous is moved by the guidance of God, could be depended upon the Ensure AA's future. Clearly, my job henceforth was to let go and let God. Alcoholics Anonymous was at last safe, even from me. Love that. Love it. What he's saying is that he's not any bigger or lesser than anybody else. That's what he's saying. And to me, that's true humility. 1,000 beatings by John Barleycorn did not encourage me to admit defeat. John Barleycorn is alcohol. I believed it was my moral obligation to conquer my enemy friend. Yes, fight. Isn't that kind of what, I mean, that's kind of how we always feel, isn't it? That's what we've been taught. At my first AA meeting, I was blessed with a feeling that it was all right to admit defeat to a disease which had nothing to do with my moral fiber. I knew instinctively that I was in the presence with a great love when I entered the doors of AA. With no effort on my part, I became aware that to love myself was good and right. Yes. Yes. Loving yourself is the right thing to do, as God had intended. Yes, he does intend that. He wants you to feel it. That's why we're here, man. And there could be, you think about it, we're not here for nothing, and God don't make no junk. So here I am with no effort on my part. Oh, the presence of great love when I entered the doors of AA with no effort on my part. I became aware that to love myself was good and right and God has intended. My feelings set me free where my thoughts held me in bondage. I am grateful. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for today. If I'm not back tomorrow, happy Father's Day to everyone. Please do not put expectations on Father's Day. Just enjoy the day, no matter what happens. Okay? I have no expectations. My kids will probably call me. Great. I'm fine with that. I'm okay. Is that okay with it? There doesn't need to be a celebration. I don't require it in order to feel loved. Right? Maybe my kids aren't there yet. Who knows? I don't know. But I do know that they care about me and that they love me, and that's really all I need. Love you guys. Peace out and have